welcome to Fluketronic. Up now we're going to do another new instrument look. This is a very special instrument. This is actually a recorder. I have not played recorders in a number of years here. But decided to get this one. This is kind of a bit of a holy grail instrument for me. When I used to be playing recorders a lot more, probably 10 or 12 years ago, became aware of the existence of a alto recorder in the French Baroque pitch reference of 392 Hertz, also known as a recorder in E flat in terms of modern terms. I got interested in this kind of really as a way of playing jazz charts. And this has some really unique characteristics in that context. But talk about that in a few minutes. Let's just take a listen. Very nice. So if you had your tuner on, you would have seen that the bottom note is an E flat, and other than that, it plays just like an alto recorder. Okay, so let's talk about the recorder itself. This is by Dutch recorder maker Tom de Vries. Now, I found out about Tom through a video by Sarah Jeffries. She was interviewing him about a series of recorders he had made, kind of based on the fourth flute and sixth flute. If you don't know what those are, I'll give you a link to that video. But those are recorders in different keys like B flat and D and other things. And he's kind of made all the in-between ones. This one is a little more, slightly more common. The recorder in 392 Hertz. So this is what he calls his Rippert alto. And you can make these in different pitches, but I wanted this one in 392 for a number of reasons. And Tom worked with me a little bit. If you can see the holes here, they're slightly offset on the ring fingers, top and bottom. Be a little more ergonomic. And made this out of castello boxwood, so it's pretty light wood. Describe the tone as warm and clean, and I find that definitely to be true. Now, you'll notice there are single holes here instead of your normal modern double holes. So that's kind of a nod to the historical model, although Tom did not keep the historical fingering. So often he does this, I guess, for professional recorder players in a slightly different temperament. So some of the cross fingerings are a little bit different. And allows you to play in some kind of historical temperaments. But I'm kind of glad he did just the normal Baroque modern fingerings for this one. So I think that'll work out better for me. But yeah, just a very classy instrument. Feels good under the hands, not too wide. The little slight offset does help. It is noticeable. And this was not stained, so this is just the natural wood color. Have a very small maker's mark there. If you can see that, it says TV. Oh. Hold it this way. It says TV there, so a very small Tom de Vries maker's mark. Okay, so let's talk about the jazz thing I mentioned before. So one of the reasons I was really interested in this kind of instrument is that it really fits well with B flat and E flat jazz charts. So if you think about this being kind of a small tenor, if you will, if you think of that root note as your C note, then you can read straight off of an E flat chart, and it behaves just like an E flat transposing instrument. But the other cool thing is, if you know anything about recorders, you know that altos are typically think of your root note as an F, and recorder music is written that way. So recorders are kind of weird in that regard, that both the alto and soprano instruments, really two classes, but the C instruments and the F instruments are both treated as non-transposing, and the recorder music reflects that. But if you're using jazz charts or popular charts, the cool thing is, if you think of this as an alto, you can read off the B flat chart. If you think of this as a tenor, you can read off the E flat chart. So that's pretty cool. It gives you a lot of different options for finding settings that work, and just finding charts that work. So I'll give you one example of this. Now, it's hard to find just perfect examples of this, because if you find a good B flat chart, odds are good that the E flat chart will be in the upper octave. So sometimes you can learn to read octave down or octave up to give you a few more options, and vice versa. If the E flat chart is in a good range, then the B flat chart will usually be kind of off the bottom of the scale. So, a couple techniques there, you can find things that work. So I'll just give you a snapshot of what I mean here, and we'll look at this chart by the Beatles called "And I Love Her." We'll just do the first part of it, and I'll show you both charts and kind of how I'm playing here. Okay, so I'm actually playing off of the E flat chart octave down, right? So it starts on that high D and goes up. I'm actually thinking of that as a low D, as if I was holding a tenor recorder. If I flip to the B flat chart, that actually fits pretty well with standard notation there. It starts on a G, which would be your second note up, and just goes there. Now you can see limitations of this technique I stopped before it kind of goes off the bottom of the recorder. So if I was really playing this arrangement, I'd have to do some octave jumping tricks and whatnot. But so that's the cool thing. It just gives you a lot more options. Let's do another little playing sample, and brief comparison. Probably wondering what's the difference between a regular alto. Now, this is the only other recorder I have at the moment. This is a Kung Superior Alto in plumwood, I believe. I'll just give you an idea. If I kind of line up the beaks, you can tell the styling is incredibly similar. Almost the exact same turnings and so forth. So as you would expect, the E flat instrument goes down a little farther. It's a little bit longer. But if I line up the holes, what you'll see not all that different. So it's pretty comfortable to play. It's not as big a stretch as I was fearing. Now, the only time I played one of these was years ago, a business trip to Boston. I was able to go to the Von Hune workshop and played one of their instruments. Very nice instrument. It was like $2,200 at the time, something like that. So way over my head at the time. But that kind of put the idea in the back of my mind. And this one was not quite that much. Still a handmade recorder, really built for professionals. So price kind of reflects that. You can see his prices on the website. But still for this kind of an instrument, handmade, custom touches, definitely worth the price. But let's just give a listen to the two. We'll compare them back to back, and we'll play the same song. So here is the regular F alto. It gives you a good idea. So yeah, the regular one is just a little brighter, a little not sharper, but I don't know, it's just a little bit brighter. This is definitely warmer. Yeah, just a great recorder. Let's talk a little bit about the single holes. So what that does is it does make it a little harder to get that what I'll call C sharp and D sharp notes, but they are there, and kind of gives you a little more freedom with bending notes and such. Whereas with the double holes, and you can tell I haven't practiced much lately. Oh my! Probably need a few more string wraps on this guy. You can see the double holes allow you to get a little more precise with those notes. But again, I play a lot more jazz and pop music, so I wasn't too concerned about that. I'm just having the extra tone colors there was a little more important, so decided to go with the historical single hole. So I think that's going to work out well. So yeah, I think that's all for today, and we'll come back with some tunes on this one. And yeah, I'm sure we'll be seeing more of it. Thanks.